Hey guys, it's Hannah and welcome back to the Dyslexic Reader. Today we are doing the Disney book tag. I saw this on Kittytastic. I can't believe I haven't done this tag before as someone who loves Disney and who loves books. I haven't not come across this, but I genuinely haven't come across this, so I thought I would do it with you guys. Today, I'm pushed for time today. If you've been watching, we're doing like every day this month. I'm trying to do a booktube video every single day, and today is just hectic and time is tight, but this is what I had planned for today, so I want to sit down and do it. So we're just going to very quickly boom 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 shoot through the whole thing. Question 1 is the Little Mermaid, a character out of their element, so like a fish out of water. And this one, I don't know, I stumbled a lot on a lot of these questions, and I don't know if it's because I haven't done tags in a while, but like I had to like scroll through Goodreads to get a couple of these answers, and I think they're a bit dodgy, but we'll go with it. I picked Winston from 1984 by George Orwell. This is a book I've got to reread. I'm actually considering doing like a classic dystopian kind of like reread, because like I want to reread this, I want to read Fahrenheit 451, I want to reread Animal Farm and like a couple of others, so it's on my to reread list. But Winston out of this just never... I know there's other characters in it as well that feel the same as him, and that's comes to light through the book, but he just to me always seemed discontented and always felt like there was more, and just was never happy to settle for like the status quo of what life and society had become. So that's why I picked Winston as a fish out of water. Second question is Cinderella, a character who goes through a major transformation. When I heard this, I did not think of like character development. I thought of like a legit transformation. So I picked Dr. Jekyll from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. If you know anything about this little short classic, Dr. Jekyll turns into Mr. Hyde, who is basically a hideous, violent monster. So this law-abiding, smart London gentleman becomes this hideous, violent monster who can't control his urges. And it's deeper than that. He's the one person, and everyone has these, and it's actually a very good book. I would recommend it. It's kind of, it's quite a good moral story. It's quite early for where it kind of points out like the greyness to morality, and that we all have this bad side and other people embrace it and some don't and whatever. But yeah, like he actually goes through a major transformation, so I picked him for this question. Question 3, Snow White, a book with a eclectic cast of characters. And when I thought of this, there was only one book spring to mind straight away. I didn't have to look at Goodreads for this one, and it was The Lord of the Rings, because the more I thought about it, I was like, well, I was thinking of The Hobbit first, and then I was like, well, it's mostly just dwarfs and the Hobbits. But The Lord of the Rings, you've got orcs and elves and humans and hobbits and wizards and trolls, and it's just, there's a lot of people and a lot of really different characters and a lot of different personalities, and I think all the personalities are written quite well in this series, so it's an eclectic bunch that heads on the adventure in here. This is the first one, The Fellowship of the Ring, and I think it is probably my favourite book, but my favourite part of the whole series was the second half of the final one, because it was just great. The ending, if you have only seen the movies cut out the whole second half of the third book, so like the ending is just gone. They just kind of stop at the rings destroyed, they stop the movies, but there's like a whole other like half a book in the series, and it is even going just and reading that bit is worth it, because it was my favourite part of the whole series. It was really well done, and lots of wee loose ends were tied up, so just a recommendation. Sleeping Beauty, a book that put you to sleep. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. My boyfriend was like, read this, and I eventually gave in, and it was tripe. I didn't want to read it because I didn't like the sound of it, but he said it was so good. Everyone said it was so good, and like I finished it, but like just like I was reading it in bed one night and I was literally like dozing off, and that never ever happens to me. I didn't understand it, I didn't get it. I might as well have been reading gobbledygook, or well, I was going to say or Latin or something, but even Latin would have been more interesting. It was just absolute nonsense to me. I think if you'd like gone onto like a random word generator and like pumped out however many 100 and something pages this is, 170 pages, it would have been just as good. I really hated it, and it was a real struggle to get through. Question 5 is The Lion King, a character with a traumatic childhood. I don't have this one. I read it as a library book, and it was never bound by Edward St. Aubyn. Hope I've said that correctly. I couldn't continue on with the series. I think the series follows the life of this particular boy, and obviously the first one starts with his young childhood, and it was actually so traumatic that I almost didn't finish the book. I just about finished the book. It upset me for a really long time, and I didn't want to continue with the series, so I wouldn't really recommend this. It's very traumatic. There's a lot of physical, emotional, sexual, verbal abuse in this. It's really horrible. So if you feel like that you could cope with that, I'm sure it's a very interesting series to see how this young man grows up and how it affects him and such. But for me personally, I found it, and I wouldn't even say that I'm overly sensitive to that kind of thing, but I found it just a bit too much for me, so I wouldn't really recommend it to anyone else because it was too much for me. But yeah, this kid obviously had a horrific childhood. It wasn't very nice, and I wouldn't really recommend the book. It wasn't very pleasant. Question 6 is Beauty and the Beast, a beast of a book that scared you, but it turned out to be a beauty. And for this, I picked War and Peace. I read this last summer. I can't believe that was a year ago, and I just paced it out. Like, I had to read so many pages a week to finish it in 3 months, and then I read other things in between, and just every day I sat down and tried to reach my next wee bit of the goal, and I thoroughly enjoyed this. The characters were so good, and the start was hard to get into, but once you got into it, the story was so immersive. I almost felt like I was living through this myself. So it really turned out to be a really beautiful work of art that I'm so pleased that I was able to actually commit myself to. I understand that it wouldn't be for everybody, and look how tiny the text is in this thing, and it's still 2,000 pages. Crazy. But I'm glad I did it. It was beauty. It was a beauty. But it is also still an absolute beast, and I didn't think it would be for everyone to embark on. I have to get my little sheet for the last couple of answers because we're just rushing through this, and I'm not going to try and memorize or edit this or anything. We're just going to fly through. There's only 4 more to go. 7 is Aladdin, a character who gets their wish, and I thought of George from George by Alex Gino. This is a book about a transgender girl, and she has a wish in it to play Charlotte in the school play, Charlotte's Web, but because she was born male, they say that she cannot play a female role, and eventually she does get her wish at the end. I don't think that's any major spoiler. I think that but it's the journey there that really is what the book is about. This is a children's book for children. I would recommend it for kind of reading age. I would say a 10-year-old could actually read the words. I think for understanding, you're maybe looking at a wee bit older, unless you read it with your child and or class, as I would as a teacher, and kind of talk them through it and done activities around it. Then I think it could be used for younger children. I think 10 would be able to read it on their own, actually read it, but not maybe comprehend. And I think definitely for any child kind of 12 plus would be able to read and understand and get quite a lot of understanding and empathy and stuff out of this. So it's a good pick. Number 8, Mulan, a character who pretends to be something that they aren't. And this one just came to me like a bolt of light, which is Count Olaf from the series Unfortunate Events. In every book, he's a different person. He's dressed up, and the kids know who this guy is. They can spot him a mile off, but the police, the adults, their carers, nobody else spots this guy's disguises, which was always really funny to me. But yeah, Count Olaf is the villain in the series, and he's in pretty much every book, but he's in every book as a different character. He's a sailor, and then I'm trying to think he's a lab assistant, he's a circus performer, he works in a hospital, I think, at one stage. He's always in all these situations that they find themselves in, but he's always in a different disguise in any book, so he always is pretending to be something that he isn't. Although he is an actor, so I guess he is kind of acting in all these roles, so that is what he is, but we'll not get into the kind of complicated aspects of that. Number 9, Toy Story, a character that you wish could come to life. And this one I thought was like quite hard, but I eventually went with Turnip from The Princess and the Goblin by George MacDonald. My cat is called Turnip, and she was named Turnip after Turnip in this book. So I thought it would be interesting to see the Turnip from the book come to life and see like how alike they are. Would they get on? They could have little play dates. We could have 2 turnips and it would be cute. So that's what I went for with this. I don't think there's any like characters that I would particularly want to befriend, because I either like hate them all or they have too much drama in their lives that I wouldn't want to contend with. So we're going with the cat. We're going to bring the cat to life and see if he gets on with my cat. And the final one is Descendants, which is like a Disney Channel movie. I think this is what this tag was brought out for, like to celebrate the Descendants. There was Descendants books as well, so that might be where it's tied in. The third one's coming out at the end of this year, and I'm kind of excited. I kind of love these trashy Disney Channel movies. If you haven't seen them, it's about like the children of the villains. So like they're descendants. So we've got like the daughter of the evil queen from Snow White and like Jafar's son and like all these ones, and they try to mingle in with the good kids. So it's all the kids of the Disney characters. They're good fun. There's a lot of songs in them though, I'll prepare you for that. But for Descendants you had to pick your favourite villain, and I found this really hard because nothing would really come to mind. I think it's really hard to like write a good villain who like seems genuine and authentic but is also like really scary. Also, I read a lot of middle grade, so it's not that scary because I don't want to scare the children. Or I also read a lot of fantasy, which tends to be like so unrealistic that it's not really scary because it's like, oh, like a magic demon dragon something, but that's not really scary because I can't like ever like imagine that. It's not realistic. Or I read like a lot of like non-fiction, but it's not really scary either, unless it's true crime. They can be scary sometimes. But I picked
It's 11 o'clock.
It's 11 o'clock. I've got to move this on because I said I got a busy day. I picked this Circle from The Circle by Dave Eggers, and The Circle is not really a person, it's more of like a company and a philosophy and like the start of a society. This book is great if you have not read it. I'll quickly read the synopsis so you can get the idea because I don't really know how to summarize it. The Circle runs everything, all your internet activity, in one easy, safe and visible place. No wonder it's now the world's most powerful and influential company. It's basically Google. So when May Holland lands a job at the glittering California campus, she knows she's made it. But the more her ideals and ambitions become aligned with those of the Circle, the closer she comes to discovering a sinister truth at the heart of the organisation seeking to remake the world in its image. It's so good, it's so gripping, it's so like telling. Actually, this was written, I believe, quite a few years ago, 2013. Which was that? 5. I'm gonna look so stupid, that's not true. 5, 6, 7, 8. No, 6 years ago. 3 and 6 is 19, of course. 6 years ago. I don't even know what year it is, let alone how many years ago this was. 6 years ago, and actually some of the things that are like put in here is like, in the future we actually do have that now, which is so crazy to me. And just the way that they like manipulate your life is a wee bit more extreme than what we see in our lives, but like not so extreme that you couldn't believe it happening. And the way it changes society is just like mind-blowing crazy. And like the conspiracy theories and all like behind it, there's like people pulling the strings and like it's a front and it's not really who it seems to be, and it's great. I can't read about this book enough. This is another one that I would reread because I don't think there's a really, really awkward sex scene in here. Like, it's just awkward. My boyfriend read this as well, and when he was reading it, he read it after me. He was like, what was that scene? It is really quite bizarre, but other than that, the whole thing is like fantastic. It's gripping, the characters are well written, and I just can't gush about this book enough. I haven't read it in ages. I should probably reread it. So The Circle is my favourite villain because it is just so well written. So that's it. That was a big pile of books to talk about. I think I got through it in about 15 minutes, so I can't hang about any longer today if I'm going to get this rendered and uploaded. So I hope you're all happy. I hope you're all healthy, and hopefully I will see you tomorrow. I don't know what I'm filming tomorrow, but we shall see. Goodbye.